One of the things I enjoyed most about living in Nuer villages throughout the early 80s and their cattle camps was the amount of humor that was spiced into everybody's conversation. It was as if everybody sort of had an attitude. Let's keep it up, keep it up. So that was wonderful. And within all of that humor, there was a special brand of humor, which I'm going to call cross-sex teasing. And this is where the men were supposed to sort of stand up for each other relative to women, and women were supposed to stand up and defend themselves relative to men. So this was something really enjoyable. And I want to give you 2 quick examples about how I learned a lot through this. First one, I was living, let's say 1983, I was in Chief, which is part of Lake Nuer country, living with Chief Kelual Nyinyar Rik. And at that time, I wandered off to go attend my first male initiation ceremony. I've seen others since then. But anyway, so I witnessed it, I learned a lot about it, and then I wandered back home to Kelual's home. And as I came, Kelual, the chief, was sitting with a whole bunch of men under the lual tree, the big tree there. And so they called me over, they said, Nyarial, come over, sit with us. So tell these guys here, what did you think about the initiation ceremony you just witnessed? So I said, I was honest, as usual. I said, though I'm sure the operation is very painful and the boys are very brave to endure it, I was surprised how quickly it was over. It was a matter of a few moments, and the boy was initiated. And so when I think about it and compare it to the difficult birth I saw the other day, well, there's no comparison. The birth was much harder. The men burst into laughter, having taken my comment as a sort of statement of my willingness to involve myself in a bout of cross-sex teasing. So encouraged by the laughter, I said, and besides, a man is only initiated once, but a woman gives birth again and again. And men burst out in laughter again. So, much to my surprise, these men partially agreed with me. Kelual said to me in front of others, theories on marks of God, he said, we men know that these scars are not a big deal in themselves, but you have to realize, Nyarial, that scarification, initiation, is still harder, bumnijen, birth. Because once a man is scarified, he must do many things. If a war breaks out, he must run and join the battle. Or if there's a lion or a buffalo, he has to go out and face it. And I realized then that I had been thinking about this parallel between the sort of borderline between a boy becomes a man, which is scarification, and the borderline of when a girl becomes a woman, which was birth, then in terms of really pain, the relative pain of each. But these men were explaining to me, in a way, I realized that it wasn't a matter of the pain. These scars are not so much in themselves. It was rather a challenge to overcome fear, and especially fear of death. When I later discussed this issue with several women, they all agreed that no woman ever overcomes the fear of giving birth, no matter how many times she has been through it. And this is not surprising, considering how many women at that time and since die in giving childbirth. So that's one example. Another example, I was sitting in a byre, a luok, with a whole bunch of people, and there was a conversation going on. And suddenly, a man from across the byre called over to say, Nyarial, tell us, who does more for a child, the father or the mother? A challenge, cross-sex teasing. So this time, being curious about what this man would say without prodding for me, I kind of said, I'm not sure. What do you think? So he said, well, of course it's the father. Think about it, Nyarial. If the child gets sick, who is it that takes a cow and sacrifices that the child will get better? And if the child needs medicine, who is it that takes a cow and sells it to get the medicine? Besides, even the mother herself, if she gets sick, it's the father or her husband who's going to do this for her. So clearly, a man does more for the child than the mother. So I said, well, what do you think women would say about that? They say that's ridiculous. Of course, the mother does more for the child than the father. We give birth to them, we suckle them, we feed them. And on that note, our conversation ended as abruptly as it had begun. So these are just two examples of something I really enjoyed, and also was a place where I could discover new things.